What if I told you the biggest change inside the Green Bay Packers this offseason wasn't a blockbuster trade, it wasn't a first-round draft pick, and it wasn't a superstar free agent signing? Instead, it was something happening quietly behind the scenes. Something that could completely change Jordan Love's future. Most NFL fans haven't noticed it yet, but the Packers may have finally unlocked the version of Jordan Love they've been waiting for ever since he took over as the starting quarterback. And if that's true, the rest of the NFC could have a serious problem. Because this isn't just about one player getting better. It's about an entire offense evolving at exactly the right time. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Packers fans should be more excited than ever, and why this season could become Jordan Love's true breakout year. Let's dive in. Every offseason, NFL fans become obsessed with the biggest headlines. Who signed the biggest contract? Which team made the biggest trade? Who won the draft? Those stories dominate social media, sports shows, and YouTube. But championship teams aren't always built through flashy moves. Sometimes, the most important improvement isn't a new player at all. Sometimes, it's the development of the players you already have. And that's exactly where the Packers are different. While everyone has been talking about teams like the Eagles, Lions, and 49ers, Green Bay has been quietly focused on something much more valuable, helping Jordan Love take the next step. Last season gave Packers fans plenty of reasons to believe. Jordan Love showed confidence under pressure, delivered clutch throws, and proved he could lead one of the youngest offenses in the NFL. But he also showed that there was another level he hadn't reached yet. There were moments when the offense looked unstoppable, and there were moments when timing, communication, and consistency simply weren't there. That's completely normal for a young quarterback leading a young team. The encouraging part wasn't that Jordan Love was already perfect. It was that he improved as the season went on. Week after week, his confidence grew. His chemistry with his receivers became stronger. His decision-making became faster. And perhaps most importantly, the coaching staff never stopped believing in him. That belief matters more than many fans realize. Because quarterbacks don't become elite overnight. They grow through repetition, through trust, through experience. And that's exactly what Jordan Love has been building since becoming Green Bay's starting quarterback. But here's where the story gets really interesting. This offseason wasn't about fixing Jordan Love. It was about creating the perfect environment for him to succeed. The Packers didn't panic. They didn't completely rebuild the offense. Instead, they chose continuity. They kept the coaching system in place. They continued developing their young receivers. They focused on improving chemistry rather than starting over. At first glance, that may not sound exciting. But history shows that some of the NFL's biggest quarterback leaps happen during a player's second full season as the starter. The game slows down. The offense becomes more natural. Confidence replaces hesitation. And that's why many people believe Jordan Love hasn't reached his ceiling yet. In fact, the Packers may have quietly unlocked something much bigger than anyone expected. But what exactly changed inside Green Bay this offseason? So, what exactly did the Packers change? At first glance, not much. There wasn't a blockbuster trade. There wasn't a headline-grabbing free agent signing. And there wasn't a complete overhaul of the offense. But that's exactly why so many people have missed the real story. The biggest change wasn't about adding new stars. It was about building the perfect environment for Jordan Love to take the next step. Think about it for a second. When young quarterbacks struggle, many teams immediately panic. They fire coaches. They change offensive systems. They bring in new coordinators. They completely reset everything. The Packers did the exact opposite. Instead of starting over, they doubled down on continuity. Matt LaFleur kept the offensive identity intact. The coaching staff continued building around Jordan Love's strengths instead of forcing him into a different system. And that decision could end up being one of the smartest moves of the entire offseason. Why? Because the NFL isn't just about talent. It's about timing, chemistry, trust, and repetition. Every practice rep, every film session, every offseason workout helps a quarterback process the game a little faster. That's something statistics can't fully measure. When Jordan Love first became the starter, there were moments when he hesitated. Sometimes he held onto the ball just a little too long. Sometimes the timing with his receivers wasn't perfect. And occasionally, small communication mistakes turned into big plays for the defense. Those growing pains were expected. But what happened as the season progressed told a completely different story. Jordan Love started making quicker reads. He became more comfortable moving inside the pocket. His footwork looked cleaner. His confidence grew with every game. And perhaps most importantly, his connection with Green Bay's young receiving corps became noticeably stronger. That's where this offseason becomes so important. Instead of learning an entirely new offense, Jordan Love entered the offseason already knowing the system. That changes everything. Now he isn't spending valuable practice time memorizing plays. He's mastering them. He's recognizing defensive coverages faster. He's anticipating where his receivers will be before they even make their breaks. That's the difference between a good quarterback and one who can eventually become elite. Another underrated factor is the offensive line. A quarterback's confidence often begins with protection. When you trust the players in front of you, you stop worrying about pressure and start focusing on making plays. The Packers know this better than anyone. That's why they've continued investing in depth, competition, and player development across the offensive line. Even small improvements up front can completely change an offense. One extra second in the pocket, one cleaner passing lane, one fewer pressure. Those tiny differences can turn an incomplete pass into a touchdown. They can turn 3rd and long into a first down. They can completely change the outcome of a football game. But Jordan Love isn't the only reason Packers fans should be excited. Because while everyone has been talking about him, another group has been quietly improving behind the scenes as well. The young receivers. With another full offseason together, this offense now has something it didn't have a year ago: experience. The timing should be sharper. The communication should be better. The confidence should be higher. And that's exactly why many analysts believe Green Bay's offense hasn't even reached its full potential yet. This isn't about one magical change. It's about dozens of small improvements happening at the same time. And when those improvements come together, that's when a team suddenly looks completely different. But here's the question nobody seems to be asking. What if Jordan Love isn't just improving? What if he's about to become one of the NFL's most dangerous quarterbacks? Because the numbers from last season might already be pointing in that direction. Here's where the story gets even more interesting. When people talk about Jordan Love, they usually focus on one thing: his stats. Touchdowns, interceptions, passing yards. But those numbers don't tell the full story. If you watched every Packers game last season, you probably noticed something that many casual NFL fans missed. Jordan Love wasn't the same quarterback in December that he was in September. He became more patient, more confident, and far more dangerous when the game mattered most. Early in the season, there were moments when the offense looked out of sync. Receivers were still learning their roles. The timing wasn't always there. The offensive line dealt with injuries, and Love was still adjusting to being the full-time starter. Many young quarterbacks struggle in that situation. Some never recover. Jordan Love did the exact opposite. Instead of losing confidence, he kept improving every single week. By the second half of the season, everything began to slow down for him. His footwork became cleaner. His pocket awareness improved. He started trusting his instincts instead of overthinking every throw. And that's exactly what elite quarterbacks do. They don't just rely on talent. They trust what they see. That's when Jordan Love began making throws that only confident quarterbacks attempt. Tight window passes, deep balls under pressure, quick decisions against disguised coverages. Those weren't lucky plays. They were signs of growth. And that's what should excite Packers fans the most, because quarterbacks often make their biggest leap in year 2 as the unquestioned starter. History has shown this time and time again. Once the game slows down, everything changes. But Jordan Love isn't improving alone. The entire offense is growing with him. Think about Green Bay's young receivers. A year ago, they were still trying to build chemistry. Now they've spent another full offseason together. They know each other's tendencies. They understand the timing of the offense. Communication becomes automatic. Instead of thinking, they're reacting. And in the NFL, that's a massive. It become legitimate Super Bowl contenders sooner than anyone expects. Because that's where this story takes an even bigger turn. Now here's the question every Packers fan has been asking. How good can this team actually be? Not in 2 or 3 years. Not after another rebuild. This season. Because if Jordan Love really has taken another step, then the expectations for Green Bay have to change. This team can no longer hide behind the excuse of being too young. They've already gone through the growing pains. They've experienced tough losses. They've learned how difficult it is to win in the NFL. Now it's about proving they belong among the league's best. And honestly, that's what makes this season so exciting. The Packers don't have to be perfect. They just have to be better than they were a year ago. Sometimes fans think a team needs one superstar signing to become a contender. History tells us something different. Many of the NFL's best teams weren't built overnight. They improved little by little, every offseason, every practice, every game, until one day, the rest of the league realized they had become a serious threat. Could Green Bay be following that same path? It's certainly possible. Because this roster has something every coach dreams about: youth, speed, chemistry, and perhaps most importantly, confidence. When players believe in themselves, they play faster. They take more chances. They trust the game plan. And that confidence can completely change a football team. Think about the biggest surprise teams in NFL history. Almost nobody predicted them before the season started. They weren't favorites. They weren't the media's first choice. They simply improved together. That's exactly why the Packers shouldn't be overlooked. The national conversation usually focuses on teams like the Eagles, the Lions, the 49ers, or whoever made the biggest offseason splash. Meanwhile, Green Bay continues preparing in silence. No unnecessary drama, no distractions, just work. And sometimes, that's exactly how championship teams are built. But let's be realistic, the road won't be easy. The NFC North is one of the toughest divisions in football. Every divisional game feels like a playoff game. Every mistake becomes more expensive. And every opponent wants to prove they belong at the top. That means Jordan Love will face the biggest challenge of his career. Not because people doubt his talent anymore, but because now, people expect him to succeed. That's a completely different kind of pressure. The good news? Pressure often creates great players. Every elite quarterback reaches a moment where potential is no longer enough. They have to prove they can lead. They have to prove they can win consistently. They have to prove they can elevate everyone around them. This season, Jordan Love has that opportunity. But here's what excites me the most. The Packers don't need Jordan Love to play like someone else. They don't need another Aaron Rodgers. They don't need another Brett Favre. They simply need Jordan Love to become the best version of himself. And if that happens, everything changes. The offense becomes more explosive. The coaching staff becomes more aggressive. The defense plays with more confidence because they know the offense can answer back. Suddenly, Green Bay isn't entering games hoping to compete. They're entering games expecting to win. That's the mindset of contenders. Now imagine this. It's December. The playoff race is heating up. Lambeau Field is packed. Snow is falling. The Packers are playing for the NFC North. Jordan Love steps onto the field with complete confidence. The crowd believes. The locker room believes. The coaching staff believes. And perhaps for the first time since Aaron Rodgers left Green Bay, the entire NFL starts believing too. That's the moment every Packers fan has been waiting for. Not because Jordan Love replaced a legend, but because he created his own legacy. And maybe,